Hey everybody, welcome back to Gun Totin' Minnesotan. My name is Andrew, and what you're looking at here is a DNT Optics, that's Day and Night Technologies Optics 7-35 first focal plane 34mm tube that was sent out to the channel by myhighpressureair.com. It's an airgun website primarily, but they're starting to branch out into lots of other areas. So if you're like me and you like powder burners as well as air guns, that's the website to be checking this out. They are probably the best price you're going to find on this product anywhere on the internet. Again, this is a first focal plane. I'll talk you through some of the features of this Japanese extra low dispersion glass optic. It is something that's probably designed more for the PRS and ELR shooters out there. Really quickly, before I get to the rest of the review, I'm going to go over a few more of the stats very quickly. It does have a zero stop and zero reset on both the windage and the elevation. Something really cool about the windage I'll get to later in the video. The length is 16 inches, the weight is 42 ounces, the eye relief is around 3.5 inches, illumination is in red color, it has 6 settings, and it's running off of a CR2032 battery. Field of view is pretty good. At 35 power, it's going to be around 3.34, and then at 7 power, it's 16.66. The parallax goes down to 25 yards and up to infinity. The reticle is a mil reticle with mil turrets. On my particular configuration, it's called TOR reticle, the one reticle. It's a multi-purpose reticle, again, for PRS as well as ELR type shooting, target shooting, maybe even hunting. Recoil rating is 50 BMG. Waterproof and fog-proof it is, yes. Nitrogen purged. Total elevation adjustment, 35 mils, and the total windage adjustment is 16 mils. Now I'm going to use the optic. I'll show you a couple different ways that I set it up on a Rimfire and then also a Centerfire. Ran it out to a little past 600 yards. Really enjoyed this optic, and I'll finish with my closing thoughts at the end. I will say that resolution is really good, actually, on 35 compared to what I thought. And this price point, it's just not common to find something with really good resolution at 35 power. In fact, I've had some expensive scopes that at 35 power, the image is so dark, it's basically unusable, or it turns egg-shaped, or it just is really hard to see. It's milky if it's poor quality glass, but this isn't suffering from those issues. Actually, resolution seems to be pretty good. Color fidelity is good. Comfort behind the eye box, a little touchy on 35. Even when I go down to 30, it's a little better. It's noticeably better. And at 25, I'm right at home, right around there. And my rifle is set up well for this kind of thing. That matters. Go ahead and take a few shots here. Man, hey, thank you to Kid Innovations, Bear Creek Arsenal, and Sunway Photo, and Vanguard Outdoors for so much help to get this stuff together. I really appreciate it. Basically everything here, and Fab Defense. Everything here, Warbird Pro, all this stuff is really great, and it just makes the shooting experience more pleasant. I like it. I like shooting better with this kind of quality gear. You know, there's cheaper stuff out there, that's the truth. But that cheaper stuff, sometimes it doesn't perform as well, sometimes it's disappointing. And all this has been mating up really nicely, and it's performing really, really well. And this optic complements all of it very nicely. I'm not having failure points with it. I'm definitely hitting my targets, and I'm shooting a KYL from a standing position. Oh, I'm out of ammo. All right, set up at 50 yards with the Kid chassis and the BCA 201. On top is a DNT Optics 7-35. This is the one optic, and I'm shooting with minimal wind, probably 7-mile-an-hour winds. I'm gonna try to clear that KYL with bulk ammo. I'm gonna see if I can do it. It is possible, I know that much. Here we go. There it is, first run through, pretty clean. Just had to wait for those to swing around. Looks like even with bull camo, this setup can do it. The optic was a huge part of it. Because of that center dot, I was able to distinguish it, make a really nice clear image, and it wasn't too windy, which helped as well. That kid chassis and kid trigger though, exceptional. It's a really nice combination, as you can see. Okay, I'm kind of going over depth of field here. I'm gonna go to 16 power and grab that parallax wheel, move it back and forth. In fact, I'm gonna bump it up higher. I'm gonna go to 25 power and go back and forth here. You know, depth of field is decent. It's right there, it's on par. It's actually better than I would expect at the price point. I'll put it that way. It is better than I'd expect, and it's certainly on par with the competition for field of, or depth of field rather, depth of focus. But yeah, if I was in a competition, I would feel really comfortable, and I should use this in a competition for sure. I should use it. If I was in a competition, I would feel very comfortable running the parallax a little bit sloppy. One of the problems you have with poor depth of field scopes is if you try to run a dirty field of view at all, it's just so milky or it's so poor, you have so much issue and error, you just can't trust the image, or you can't see details and contrast. Like this last weekend, I was shooting a match and it rained and we had gray targets, 600 yards for Centerfire. And at that distance, you know, a gray target against brown backdrop in the rain, you need really good contrast, and you need to be able to set your parallax sometimes to engage multiple targets without touching it. And if you can't run your parallax dirty, it's a lot of extra time. So depth of field matters, that you can run it, you know, a little bit dirty and it's okay. If it's so touchy that just any amount off is a blurry image, or just a really poor contrast image, or you just kind of get really flat and you lose all that sharpness. If it runs that way, then you're gonna be taking a lot of time sharpening your image on every single target at every distance. It costs a lot of time. Okay, I'm set up a little past 50 yards here, and I have a 2-paddle swinger that usually in like NRL 22 competitions you try to get spinning around. This is a 2-inch on top, a 4-inch on the bottom. It's pretty thick, so you should be able to hear it just fine. And I'm just monkeying around a little bit more with the scope, trying to get, you know, a feel for what the eye box is like, the image, colors, in all sorts of settings. And so I'm shooting just slightly into the sunlight, I suppose you could say. And I'm figuring out that this thing is a clear piece of glass. It's really a nice image. I do have the sunshade on there. That's going to help me a little bit with probably barrel sheen and a little bit of that going on. Thank you to Vanguard Outdoors for sending out the tripods that I'm filming with today. Really appreciate that. Pretty much can't do it without them. And then I also want to say thank you to Kid for sending out this chassis for the Bear Creek Arsenal 201 that I have it strapped into, and Sunway Photo for the Arca rail underneath. The Kid chassis is not the only Kid product here. I also have the Kid 1-pound trigger. And I gotta tell you guys, this thing is a hot rod. It makes every 1022 I've ever used look boring and stupid and inaccurate. This thing is amazing. And so a 7-35 is actually pretty appropriate. It might seem like kind of a lot of scope for what you're looking at, but it's really not. This is a very capable platform. And I'm gonna plank a little bit here, move around, probably shoot off that tank trap in a second too. So I was kind of going back and forth between top and bottom and trying to stop it and then send it again around. It's a really thick target, so it doesn't spin super easy. But this gun is absolutely a hammer. And with this optic on there, you know, it's a really nice combination for me because I need that reticle. That center dot contrasts so well against a target that's in the shadow. It's kind of dark down there. Got lots of weeds occluding the target a little bit. And the target is gray and black itself, and so that larger size center dot allows me to contrast better. And let's throw on a little illumination on level 6. Wow, strong, very strong contrast. certainly enough to make out the target and the difference between the reticle and the target. All right, that was super easy, as kind of expected. It's a very capable optic, but I'm actually going to run the reticle down quite a bit. Do that by moving to the right. I'm going to shoot on 8 power now. I am going to throw some illumination on, just for fun, I think. And on 5, setting 5 for magnification, I will shoot off the tank trap behind me here a little bit. We'll just try out some of the tips and positions there. Probably take that giant bipod off this thing first. So I'm going to wear my microphone while I go ahead and run this one. Probably going to make all the, Venus Williams sounds. But here we go. So on 5 power, that illumination is sufficient. Safety on, moving. I set this up just awkward enough for myself concerning height and position of the legs. That kid trigger though, man, it's like the best trigger. I love that. Yeah, guys, this optic is actually quite clear. It's a good image. I need to take it a lot further than I am right now, but this is really good practice for me, and gotta watch that shorty barrel. There it is. I need to compete with this. I really do. I haven't done a semi-auto. Okay, yeah, I have. I haven't done this semi-auto in NRL 22, and this combination right here, it's a hammer. I feel like I would have some sincere advantages in running an auto gun that can shoot still pretty precise, and then having the ability to run on low power if I want to, or crank it up pretty high and shoot those KYLs if I get the opportunity to shoot some prone stages. It's a pretty capable optic. I'm really having a good experience. All right, I don't have much time at all. I'm filming through the Tractoric binoculars at 330 yards. There's a few clays out there. You should be able to tell which ones I'm shooting at. Above number 11, there's still some clays intact. It looks like I'm just shooting some bulk box ammo right now, which is gonna do okay. It'll be all right. There we go. And I believe my data is going to be, let's see, so I'll dial 12.5, which on a 0 MOA rail is about as much as I really have anyways. It's only a little bit past that. I tend not to push it. I'll just hold over. Wow. Again, check out high pressure pneumatics or my high pressure air. That gentleman, his name is Tom, if I got that right. Hopefully I got that right. Sorry if I forgot. But his website has products just like this, the specific one, for really good prices. I'm not sure how he gets the best prices, but I think he's got them. And a really nice website, laid out really well. And I like this scope a lot. DNT, this is a great scope. I'm on 20 power with the sun going down here, quite low in the sky, and it's a great image. Let me go ahead and throw a few down here. Let's see where these land. I'm gonna hold a couple more. This is a great reticle for holding. See where that one goes. Okay, that's real low. There it is. Oh my gosh. So I made the correction. I held 4 more mils than I did the first time, and that was dead nuts, right on it. There's another complete clay to the right of the one I just hit. Let's see if I can get close. Ooh, just high. Those are really close. Couple oddballs in there. Man, I'm so close. Now the standard deviation on these is not great. Again, this is bulk box. If you're not impressed, you shouldn't be, because this is bulk box. It's not match ammo. This barrel can do really well with match ammo. And it can do all right with the bulk box stuff. And give myself one last bullet. Let's see if I can rock that target. Okay, so I'm definitely going left and right, and it's very windy out. I'm sure, even though there's no leaves in the trees, hopefully you can see it or hear it or something. But left and right, and then there is some standard deviation there that's kind of wild, but it's right in there, and I got to throw down some more. I really like how sharp the image is. I'm going to push it up. I'm going to go up to 30 power this time and see what that looks like. I think, although I do need to hold. Well, let's go back. Let's go the other way. Go down to 8 power and see what happens. Audio sync. Okay, so I checked my data book just out of curiosity, and my data is what it was the last time I shot. In conditions like this, it's right there. I believe the tracking is lining up right where it should be. Not really any surprises other than just the wind. The wind is always a bit of a surprise. I'm going to go ahead and throw at least 10 more down. This thing's doing pretty good, and I really appreciate the thickness of the stadia and the breakups. I'm going to be doing this at 8 power now. Going for the one above number 11, just to the right of number 11. Close. Very close. You know, this is not too bad in the wind for this ammo. I'm actually kind of impressed. Man, it's right there. It's close. Oh my gosh. Hey, if that was a 10-inch target for 22 in a windy day, I would have been rocking it every time. On 8 power, what an excellent eye box, actually. On the low power, I'm happy to see that they didn't sacrifice that. It's pretty decent. It's not perfect, but it's pretty decent. And a really bright image. Reticle is still thick enough. That's such a big thing here, guys. The reticle is still thick enough. I can see stuff. It's not blocking the target. If I wanted to, I could throw on some illumination on here. I don't need it. Numerical indicators in the tree are at the far and wide position on both sides, left and right. And it's quick. This is a quick reticle. It's good. Very good. I like those lateral lines going out to 16. I'm probably not going to hold 16 mils. I'm probably going to start dialing at that point, but I have held 8 and 10 before with different rifles, even Centerfire at distance. And I like to have it. Even if I'm not going to use it all the time, I like to have it. And those bold, thick lines do draw my eye to the center. And once I'm up to, let's say, even at 10 power, that center dot is very practical. I'm extremely happy with this reticle. It is a large upgrade over some other competitors. Going back and forth on the power. Doesn't seem to shift on me. Looks like it's staying right where it ought to. Man, what a great scope. Okay, everybody, now I'm using the side shot scope cam. Looking at a target there just a little past 100 yards, and I haven't shot on it yet, but I'm going to in a moment, and I'm going to use some illumination when I do. I thought now would be a good time to talk you through illumination. Here's setting 6, and I'm on power 12. That's what it's going to look like, but actually I'll zoom in just a touch. It's going to get a little grainy. That's a little closer to what it looks like for me. That right there is what illumination is. It's not the rest of the tree. It is just the horizontal and the vertical lines going up and down. The rest of it is barely illuminated, if any, and I think this is the right way to do illumination. I like having 6 settings with off in between. I'll go ahead and turn it off so you can see that contrast. Really nice size center dot. The stadia itself has a really good thickness. I kind of prefer this over most scopes, actually, because of that thickness. Then I'm going to run to level 5. Level 5 is not going to be quite as deep of a red or bright. Yeah, the rest of these are probably just hard to pick up on a bright day like today. Now I'm going to go back to 6 for a second, and there's level 6 again. So level 6 is the most functional. It's going to give you a lot on even a bright day. I mean, I can pick that up. I would actually be comfortable saying that's daylight bright. Now let me zoom in just a little bit more. Let's go up to, let's go all the way up to 35. So at 35 power, you can see that it's not bleeding over terribly. Maybe if I go to 5 now, it's a little better. It's still a little dull through the camera, but on level 6, you're able to see it better. So I'll leave it on level 6. That's the field of view that you're gonna get at 100 yards on 35 power. That's what the stadia and the center dot are gonna look like. Again, I think it's very appropriate. It's very easy to find and hold on targets. Most of the life of this scope, as far as actual pulling of the trigger, long distance shooting, that sort of thing, competitions, this right here is the max that I typically will run it. And then for spotting purposes, I'll go up to that 35 power. And you can just barely make out some of those dots in the holdover, the reticle there, in the tree itself, rather. You can see some of those dots are lightly illuminated, but they're not obscuring the target. They're not bleeding over. It's done really tactfully, and I appreciate that. But a lot of the life of the scope is going to be back closer to this. There's 20 power. There's 16 power. And back to 12. Very practical range. You definitely can use it lower than this, but I think most people are going to spend a lot of time in that 12 to 16 power right there. Maybe some bench rest guys up closer to the 25 power. And if you're spotting for a friend, like I said, back up to 35. Looks really good. Well done, guys. I like this reticle a lot more than the competitors, and I especially appreciate the actual subtension values and the way that they went about it. I think it's simple. I think it lines up really quickly. It's easy to tell when I miss, and it's not obscuring the target. It's not covering the target, as well as the fact that the illumination actually works on a bright day. I don't want this to turn into a review of the groups or the ammo or the rifle. I want to talk about the optic, and I'm going to tell you that I have shot poor quality optics in the past, and I started with pretty poor quality optics generally, and I still shot some tight groups from time to time. I learned the fundamentals, but over time, better glass, better reticles, certainly better tracking helped a lot with getting things where I wanted them to be. And so I just shot 4 groups it's a little past 200, it's about 219 yards. And at 219 yards, here's the groups I came up with. This was using gold medal, 175 grain. I should have measured these out, but just for reference there, first notch of my finger, the first knuckle there is 1 inch. So a little over 1 inch, that's like 1.25 inches. I would say technically these are probably about half MOA. That one's probably about half MOA. And then check this out. That actually is like 0.5 inches, maybe 0.6, something like that. And so that's almost quarter MOA if you consider that. So obviously that one was a little better than the rest, but the core is really consistent. I was aiming against a black target, and you can see that center dot would just blend into that a lot of times. But the contrast from the illumination was enough that I could hold it right on there. And at 200 yards, it was a really nice size. That's a big deal to me. And that size allowed me to send it right in the middle of that black and not lose it with my weak right eye. And I still think that's pretty admirable for a very average Savage Model 10, nothing special, factory second federal ammo. Technically, those are not bad groups, so I know it can do well. I'm going to shoot a little bit here at 330. I have some steel up there. I'm out of match ammo, so I'm shooting like jacketed hollow point and 7.62 by 51. That's not really consistent, but just for fun, I'm going to shoot a little bit on some different size targets here, just see what I can do. I really want to burn up this ammo before winter anyways, so we'll find out together how well it does, but I'm going to get more experience behind the reticle, behind the scope, and with low light, and just see if there's anything else that I can bring to you guys about it. Otherwise, I'm just going to tell you that it's good, because so far it's just really good. And it's kind of hard. If a scope sucks, I have more to talk about, because I can talk about what they could have done better, or just what isn't for me. But this is a good scope, and there's a lot that I like about it. And so good job, I guess, so far. Let's see how it does here at 330. Okay, first, there's a clay that's like between 12 and 13 lanes there on the hip. maybe 2 pieces of a clay actually, now that I look at it. I'm going to shoot a couple rounds at that to see where these land, and then I'll switch over to some steel targets and see how I can do with that.
Okay, here we go. A little high. That seemed a little low. It's not great ammo, but send one more. Okay, that was it.
So it can't be terribly consistent. It was a little high, a little low with the same aim point there. Groups wise, at 330 with this rifle, it would be under 3 inches for sure. It's about half MOA a lot of times. So I think this ammo is probably a 1 MOA ammo, which should be fine. It's probably a little over 1 MOA. I have some targets down there. There's a 4-inch and there is a 6-inch. I should be able to get a few hits on there as long as the standard deviation isn't terrible on these. And I'll change my camera around. So hopefully, I don't know. Let's see if I can go 3 for 5 on the 6-inch. I'll try that first.
From my perspective, those are going to the right. So I'm just going to make a little correction and hold to the left.
All right, I'm going to set up here at a little past 600. Got a few targets out here to shoot today. Some paper, some steel. It is surprising that nobody else is out here. It's cold, wet, windy, and dark, stormy. I have no idea why nobody wants to shoot in these conditions, but anyways, I'm going to throw some here. Use the reticle with some holdovers, and then I'll also dial and try a couple different things out. I might do a little PRS practice here as well, which 308 is fun to do with because you have to, be better with the wind, and this recoils more, so it's just a better practice tool for me as a beginner. But this optic is going to do just fine. I'm really confident. I'm not sure what my groups will look like on paper, but I'm not going to have trouble on steel. I'm very sure I'll hit that target over and over.
It's an impact. That's an impact. 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 And one more. Impact. One of the perks of living in a cold environment is that my barrel didn't heat up shooting those 5. I'll shoot 5 more back to back. I can shoot them in fast succession. Barrel is not going to heat up, so I guess that's at least one advantage. The wind and the cold does change things. It does change my data. And the overcast conditions actually make for a pretty nice image. It's kind of equal lighting all the way around. One thing I'm impressed with is I feel equally comfortable with this reticle on 12 power or 20 power. I mean, field of view is better at 12 for sure. iBox is fantastic at 12, 16, right in there. But I'm really comfortable at 12 power because of that center dot size. The reticle is just built right for me. I throw on a little bit of illumination, and now the contrast is really nice. It's excellent. I'm going to shoot some paper next here, but I'm impressed with the reticle overall. And, you know, if the glass quality sucks, then the reticle doesn't matter really that much. And the glass does not suck in this. It's pretty good. And so I'm starting to think this might end up replacing completely a $1,800 scope that was on this before. Real seriously, because of that reticle and the fact that the glass can at least keep up. It's not going to be superior, but it can keep up. And as far as shooting on high power, I don't always have to shoot on high power. Some people would maybe not prefer a scope like this because they think, well, I'm never going to use the 35 power. Just don't use it. That's what I do. I don't use it very much unless I'm spotting like I was earlier. So anyways, I'm going to shoot some paper and we'll see how it does. All right, like I said before, the kind of cloudiness and the way that the light is really even, it actually helps to catch some different detail down there. It's just an even lighting scheme. So it looks really good, but I want to tell you, you don't need a $2,000 piece of glass to see your hits, even at 600 yards on paper. I'm shooting against brown paper. That's dark already. It's dark outside. And I pushed it up to 35 power, and I can see my hits on the paper at 600 yards. Now I had to look for them and I had to look hard, but I can see them, and I got all 5. I spotted all 5 hits down there. Not an amazing group, actually. Not the best that I've ever done, and I won't defend that. It's just what I did. One of those trigger pulls was real goofy, for sure, but the rest of them seemed normal, and yeah, you know, average size group for sure, but the fact that I can see those impacts, it's good. I like that a lot. You know, you don't need a $2,000 piece of glass. You can spend under $1,000 and get a lot of performance nowadays. Awesome.
All right, let's do a really quick unboxing of the Day and Night Technologies The One Scope. Go ahead and unbox this monster of an optic. First thing I notice here is I have a manual, and product manuals do matter because not everybody has used an optic like this before. And if this is their first high magnification, you know, it's a 7-35, and they haven't had exposed turrets before, there are things about this that are going to be useful. Bits of information, how to zero, how to set things up, how to use different apps like ballistic calculators, data calculators. I think that's actually pretty useful. And a lot of people who are getting into optics, this is something you should hold on to. There's going to be your lens cleaning cloth, some stickers, that's cool. A few stickers, different sizes. There's going to be these bikini covers. And then a couple more things here. This I will install in a second. That's going to be the assist, the magnification assist with pyramids, hardware and tools, and then some Toshiba lithium 2032s for that illumination. Putting that aside, here's your scope sunshade. That's going to thread in on the objective end here, and of course the scope itself. When it comes to slipping the scales and setting the zero stop, it's a very familiar process to most of us, a great and reliable system that I've seen a lot of other places, and I like using it. So there are 3 Allens located around here. Remember, you have a tool included that's the right size. You're going to loosen up those 3 Allens, then you're going to loosen up this retaining pin right here, which is actually for your stop pin on the top. And then you can release the stop pin. You can move this back. If it was, let's say I had found my zero to be something like this, and then I loosen everything, and then I move it, and it shouldn't feel like there's any clicks or anything. It would just slide over. Then I'm going to stop it, hold it still here. I'm going to set this, not as a firm hard set, but kind of a light set. Then I'll lock this down and go around and lock those Allens one more time. Doesn't take Hulk strength, just minor strength. And ironically, I didn't have to set the zero on the windage for this one. It was exactly where it needed to be. But if you have to change anything with your zero, let's say you wound up right there, same thing, loosen up those Allens, slip it over. You shouldn't feel any clicks when you're just slipping it over. And then you can lock them down when you're on zero. One thing I really like, once again, is that this zero indicator, the numerical indicator, and the witness line are risen a little bit above where the rings are, so I can see them easily, even if I'm working from the scope, from kind of a top angle. Now let's talk about the features really briefly. You have your adjustable diopter here. This is to adjust your reticle. It moves freely, has a good uniform texture all the way around, and it's not going to probably be too hard or too light. It's going to stick right about where you need it to, and it is a fast focus, so you can easily adjust it if you hand the rifle to someone else and they need to adjust it for their eye. And just remember your setting where it is. I remember mine is all the way to the right and just back about that far right there, and it's actually pretty forgiving. The eye box is not too bad on this at all. I'll talk more about that later. Moving on, magnification lever here. This is the assist that I installed with some pyramids. Now the lever itself does help move this around because 7-35 is a good range. It's a large wheel to roll over, or a large ring to roll over here. And I like having the assist on there. It takes a little bit of the effort out of it. It adds some leverage so that it's just that much smoother to move it from one range to another. I'm willing to bet this scope will spend most of its life between about 9 power, very often at 16 or 20 power, and occasionally spotting above that, or maybe some ELR work on 25, definitely spotting at 35. But easy to get to, and this lever isn't so large that it's actually going to block my view of my bubble level, which I'll be installing later. Next up, the turrets. Now the turrets have plenty of range of travel for elevation and windage. Right now I'm sitting on a 0 MOA rail, so if you happen to be old school and you're running a 0 MOA rail like I am, especially on a Rimfire, this is something similar to what you could expect. With these 10 mils per revolution, I actually still have a little over 13, but I'm not going to push it there. I like to leave it around 12.5. That's the furthest I want to push it. So there's plenty of range of travel in there. Nice hard zero stop, mechanical zero stop. Numerical indicators are large on here. You can see that these are big, they're pronounced, they're very clear and contrasty against anything else that's going on. The black and white is about as good as it gets for contrast. And then when it comes to the 10th mil markers, you have a 5th mil or 0.5 marker and indicator as you turn the wheel around, and you have your second revolution on top, which is really useful if you're somebody who just kind of forgets where you're at, or you want to be really fast in a competition and you want to know, am I on 11 or not, and you just don't want to do extra thinking on the clock. It's nice to have those indicators on top as well. Looks really good. Moving on, you're going to have your illumination here. The illumination is actually relatively bright. I would say it's generally daytime bright. And you're going to have 6 settings with off in between. I'll try to show you more about that. I might even have a breakout video specifically about illumination. Talk about that later. The parallax wheel is incredibly smooth and easy to operate. Does not take much force, and it's not going to move my gun around while I'm operating on this, and I'm going to like lose my place or have trouble holding it down. Not one of those. And I think when winter comes and everything gets cold and tight, this itself is still going to operate smoothly. And I found that my personal numbers were close. They were definitely ballpark. The numerical indicators on here for ranges are not exact. They're ballpark. And if it's off for your eye, there's not something wrong with your scope. That's just the way that optics work and eyes work. You can see it goes all the way up. Last number listed is 500. Then you're going to get into that infinity range, and typically I've found 1,000 to be around here somewhere. Most of these numbers have been really close for me though, and 50 just happened to be spot on. Exactly. 25 also happened to be spot on, and that's cool because parallax is more of an issue closer than it is further. Really nice parallax wheel, oversized, smooth, good uniform texture. Again, the same thing you're going to get on some of these other dials and knobs here. And I like the way they've done this. Again, good, clear, contrasty, easy to see when you're in the middle of a match or if you don't have great vision. One of the reasons I like to do optics reviews, especially in this price point, is because I know a lot of people, in fact, I'm gonna wager that most people, their entire build is gonna be like $1,000 or $1,200, maybe even $800. And they can't afford to spend $1,000 on something that really doesn't do that much more than something like this, and maybe it doesn't do anything more. I would actually argue that this optic is keeping up with optics that are a decent amount more. Optically, with the image, the eye box, the tracking, the feature sets, it is offering quite a bit, and it is worth every penny that I can see over on that store site. Again, go to my high pressure air. That site, I'm going to maybe just make a link for it right here so you can see what I'm talking about. They carry a lot of cool optics. In fact, they carry a lot of high pressure pneumatic devices as well, air guns, that sort of thing. And I think I need to get into that a little bit over the winter and try it out. I've been on the edge for a long time. I've been really curious. This would be really, really good for an air gun. And I wanted to show you that not only an air gun, absolutely, you could shoot this close. It's got the parallax feature that goes down low. It's got the light collection. It's got the wide field of view. It's got a very good reticle that I could even use for hunting. Maybe I will. We'll see. But I also wanted to show you that this thing is not going to suffer when put on a Centerfire rifle. And I think this is every bit as competitive as everything in the price point. I think it's every bit as competitive. And I actually personally, again, preference-wise, I prefer this over so much of the competition because of some of the features, especially that reticle. It's something that I know how to use, and it goes well with me in the way that I can see, and holding it on targets, contrast, that's such a big deal. And I don't know why for years I was buying scopes that had some features I liked and then some features I hated. Your money matters. It's not just cheap to go out and buy a scope. There's still some money in this. And I'm going to suggest that you save up, you get something like this rather than the $300 Vortex or the $400 Bushnell. I just don't think they can compete at the end of the day with what this is offering. I think it's a better deal, it's superior, and it has less limitations than a lot of those optics have. That's just my 2 cents. If you disagree, that's just fine. I still want you guys to go over and check out that website. Thank you again to My High Pressure Air for sending this out to the channel. I will be collabing with them again in the future, and I'll be showing this optic off probably on a lot more builds.